hello, 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 hello. It's good to see you. Say hello.
Welcome to the Husky Hockey Podcast, your number one resource, well, maybe number two resource to remind you that Grant Deshawn's older brother, Roman, played for Wisconsin. Because I don't know where you could have, else you could have heard that other than the wonderful announcers that we had for the Wisconsin series, because I believe it was every time he was on the ice, it was a reference to Roman.
You said that they're related? I wouldn't have even thought that they're related. That's such a common name.
From the it just depends on which sect of the family of Ashans that they are related.
That's right.
To. You got so. I'm Weldie, sitting with Andrew. We're here to recap the sweep of the Badgers, just as we both predicted. Friday's game, kind of how I thought everything would go. Saturday's a little dicey at times, so we'll give you a kind of both of our takes here. And I don't know if you have like an elevator pitch, I guess, or like a short little. Because we got a lot to talk about in this podcast, and I want to try to keep it, under an hour and a half. So let's try elevator pitch.
All right. Well,
how would you say this series went?
You know me. I like some wordplay.
Oh.
I think you like some wordplay too. What's the first three letters of Badgers?
That would be Bravo, Alpha, Delta. B-A-D.
That's correct. Yeah. Correct. And what does that spell?
That would spell bad.
Yes, and that I think is an apt. It's fitting. I'm kind of getting it back to all the people that say can't spell SCS or sucks without SCSU. I'm sure, and someone in the history of the world has pointed out the bad Badgers thing.
Oh yeah. Probably in
and
the Show forums.
Way
back.
Well, yeah.
I think actually what happened is that you capitalized B-A-D and then G-E-R-S.
There you go.
Bad.
So I'm not saying that this is original material, but I think fitting, at least for the last, significant chunk of, significant era in Badger hockey has been marked by kind of not great play. And I do think that you sort of hinted at it where the Saturday game, it wasn't as bad. Like I was thinking after Friday, we're going to come on here again like last year and just hoot and holler and point and laugh about how horrible Wisconsin was. And the Saturday game, I still wouldn't say that they certainly was the best of the four games between the 2 years series between these two teams that they've played. By far the most competitive that they were. I still would say that the Huskies probably outplayed them slightly. I don't, and it really wasn't like the game never was really in doubt as far as I never thought they were going to lose the game. Maybe after they tied it up, maybe we're thinking, okay, worst case scenario, a tie. But I was never really all that fearful that the Huskies were actually going to lose one of these games, or at least that Saturday game. Mm-hmm. And so I can't, I was ready after Fridays, because last year we kind of came with a hot take about 10 wins. They're going to struggle to get that. And I was thinking, hot take it again. They're going to be last place in the Big Ten. After Saturday, I'm not here to say that they're going to actually be a competitive team in the Big Ten. I'm not sure if I would go as far as to say last place. If they can play like that every now and then, and especially in the league that they're in, it's also kind of a younger league, similar to how they're built. They'll fall into a couple of wins. And so, but I don't expect it to be a much better team than last year's team. And so I just think from the Huskies' perspective, you won games against a team that you're better than. And you did it on the road, which is, obviously Wisconsin is what they are, but impressive to do that on the road. and having to play some against some adversity, or at least against a formidable opponent on that Saturday game, and being able to weather a bit of a storm there and pull out a late win, I think is impressive. Of the 4 games, I mean, we just don't have. It's 4 games against St. Thomas and Wisconsin, and I'm not really sure if I'm still not quite fully knowledgeable about this team yet based on those 4 results. But I'm feeling better than I was last week about it. And so I guess I'm starting there and going into Mankato. I think it's going to be a great series. So, I mean, 2 thumbs up so far for me for this Huskies team this season.
Yeah. And, you know, like you said, going into that Mankato series as well, with just kind of the ebbs and flows that Mankato has had so far this season already, you know, just so young, and, you know, their kind of dominant performance of Minnesota Duluth. So, yeah, that's going to be an interesting series, and obviously we'll talk about that here a little bit later in the show. But yeah, I agree with Wisconsin. I do think they're a little bit better than last year, so I do maybe 12, 13 wins. But offensively, that's a team that's going to struggle to score goals. You know, again, you know, props to both Castor and Bassie for the great job that they did in net. But at the same token, there were a lot of missed chances that Wisconsin just flat out shot wide, that I don't think that a Denver or a North Dakota are going to miss those chances. I mean, there was that one on Friday that was a 2-on-0 that literally rolled off the stick. That wasn't even like a bouncing puck. He just whiffed on it. So it's, you know, they made the stops that they needed to. So, you know, huge props to them, because that was the biggest question mark, obviously, going into the series. But, you know, both of them have completely answered the call, and I'm loving the tandem so far. And it's going to be, you know, quite the predicament Brett Larson's going to be in kind of towards the end of the season if they're both playing like this. So which is, you know, I would say it's a good thing. I know some people, and I think maybe you're even in this camp, is that you want one kind of to take the reins and kind of grab a hold of it. But I mean, allowing, you know, 1 goal or less each game so far this season, you know, that's a good sign. So.
Yeah, I expect the goaltending tandem to continue at least for the first month plus. And like I said, I think I said on last week's show, if both of these goalies put up a .915 plus save percentage, I guess I really don't care. The tandem can continue, I suppose. Yeah. But I think it's just ideal, especially running into postseason time. You generally don't see a tandem in a NCHC first round series, for instance, or the NCAA tournament. So I think ideally you do want one guy to grab the reins, but I'm not going to complain, as you said, not going to complain when we're giving up 1 goal max in each of the first 4 games. And I do agree too that, and this is why I'm still hesitant to just go all in on how I feel about this team yet, is that a lot of it was Wisconsin incompetence for this series. They generated some decent chances, but it seemed like there were so many times this weekend that it was that one last pass to an open guy, they'd miss the pass, or the pass would bleed off his stick, or like you said, they would shoot it high and wide. You know, on power plays, you know, going back to the point man wouldn't be able to keep a puck in the zone. There's a lot of times during the weekend that I was saying thank you to the, you know, as I'm watching the TV, like, thank you. It's like you screwed up for us.
Yeah, that was a gift.
So, yeah, and so, yeah, I wasn't thoroughly impressed at all with Wisconsin, and that helped out St. Cloud for sure. But lots of good to take away from the Huskies' perspective. You mentioned the goaltending. I think that maybe should lead it off, as far as we thought this was the biggest question mark, and so far so good. And we'll get to know more about that this coming weekend with
definitely
clearly their biggest test so far this year. And again, I would kind of assume that we're going to stick with Castor on Friday and Bassi on Saturday. Until that doesn't work, I'm assuming that's going to be how it is for the near future. So, but also I saw, Cruikshank I thought was great. Did you know that he's from Wisconsin? Speaking about talking points.
Did you know that he was their recruit? Yeah, he was committed to Wisconsin. So.
That's right. Delafield, Wisconsin. It's ingrained in my brain now. Yeah. I thought he was great. I thought he was all over the place. I thought the top line did a good job with a ton of chances, not a ton of finishes on those chances. You had mentioned Wisconsin with the 2-1-0 floating it. Also, St. Cloud, missing the net on a 2-0 opportunity themselves on Friday. So, but I thought they did a good job carrying the action.
If it's the one I'm thinking of, that 2-1-0, and I was, bring this up on Friday if we just want to talk about Friday's game here.
Yeah, sure.
That 2-1-0 that we did miss the net, but we ended up, that was on Cooper Wiley's goal, I believe.
That's right. I think you're right. Yeah.
Like
right
5 seconds later, we kept up the pressure. We didn't slouch or point to the heavens and kind of skate away or anything. We kept up the pressure. It went to Cooper. And, I want to say it was Okabe, I think, maybe.
Okabe was the guy that shot it.
Yeah.
Was shot the 2-0.
Yeah. Well, he just parked himself in front of the net, provided the screen for Cooper to get his first goal. So, I mean, it was kind of the same with, Micah Miller had that chance, then ended up, passing over to Cruikshank for their goal. It was that kind of mentality of, keeping up the pressure, which I was really happy to see from this Huskies team that created a lot of that turning point there in that second period. Because the first period I thought was pretty even. Right. And then the second period, it was like, okay, now we're starting to find our groove, kind of kick it in gear here. Cruikshank scores, obviously. Grant Deshawn gets the shorty, which Deshawn on the penalty kill is quite...
And from a great pass from Cruikshank, too.
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah,
and then a minute later was Cooper's goal. So it was like all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, yep, here we go back to how we figured Wisconsin would be. So it was great to see kind of them keep up that tenacity and picked it up. I thought also the defense was good in front of Castor, not allowing that sustained pressure. If they did get those chances that they did whiff on, and they gave us, a little bit of grace there, but they didn't allow second, third chances very often. We were able to kind of clear it out and whatnot. So props to the defense for staying on their toes when Wisconsin started to have something cooking.
Yeah, and I thought that you brought up Ashan in the lineup on Ingram's line, basically replacing Chase Brand. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Chase Brand for a while. Or at least I wouldn't be surprised if this Ingram, Ashan, and Molinar line continues, at least for now. Because I thought that was... And obviously, Ashan's goal was on the penalty kill, so it wasn't regular 5-on-5 action. And surprised that he's already drawing those assignments, Ashan, getting penalty kill time. But you can see why that he's impressed the coaching staff in order to give him that opportunity so early in the season and cashes in on a great goal. And I really, the bottom six, that Sulquist line I thought was great. Sulquist himself, breakaway chance, and another grade A on Friday. And Rogers getting his first assist. That was, I believe, the fifth goal. Yep. Yeah, the Anhorn goal.
Anhorn's goal, yeah.
And a coin, who I thought a few times on the weekend hustled to beat an icing. Just those kind of little things, especially if you're kind of fourth liner and you want to prove yourself and prove that you deserve the minutes. Those kind of things go a long way, at least in my mind, and I'm sure in the coaching staff's mind, goes a long way to buying you some more action on the ice. So I was really actually impressed with each of the lines. I mean, they all sort of contributed. And either in the action, like creating the action like the top line did, finishing, which is like the Cruikshank and Micah Miller connection, and then getting ahead to Saturday with Kupka getting the game-winning goal on the Ingram tip on the power play. Kupka obviously being the line mate as of now with Cruikshank and Miller. So it's like we had all four lines contribute in some way. Maybe not in the score sheet, but certainly as far as dictating the play himself. Selquist was great on faceoffs all weekend. He won the grand majority of the faceoffs for him. So this will give you some idea of the depth that this team still has. I don't think this top line quite yet has established itself as like this nationwide top line, like something that's going to draw eyes across the nation. But if you got a fourth line like what they are seeing guys produce at this point, and then the third line with Ingram and Ashan for this weekend, you don't have two bottom lines that are just nothing.
Yeah.
Like you've got guys, you've got options. And there's those guys on the bench that didn't see action this weekend that are still sort of intriguing players too. So still feeling out this Huskies team, but liking what I see so far. And again, sort of still remaining not skeptical, but I don't know what the word would be. Just hesitant to tempered. That's a very good adjective there because of the two opponents so far. And I think we're going to get a lot better opportunity to make some less tempered judgments about this team after this weekend. So yeah, that Friday game, I thought just a veteran, like you can see him show their experience a little bit, as you said, not getting rattled if things didn't, if a pass didn't click or an opportunity goes by the wayside, quickly able to right the ship and win going away. I even thought that one goal for Wisconsin on Friday was a horrendous non-call. I mean,
you clear interference.
Well, you could have picked one of three penalties, I think. It was either a cross-check, a check from behind, or definitely was interference. Yeah. And your buddies, the announcers are like, well, see, puck goes up in the air, it's free-for-all. Like, no, that's not exactly the rules of the game.
I don't know how many, I would imagine 95 out of 100 times that's going to get called. And maybe they just didn't call it because it's like they're up by so 5. Quick. They're up by 5. And it was 5,
like literally like he makes the call and like immediately the puck drops on it and he just wraps it in. I mean, it probably went in so quickly that they couldn't blow the whistle. I hope that there's some excuse that they didn't call it because that was pathetic. So really even the 5-1 score was kind of deceiving because I don't think Wisconsin really deserved to score the 1. But an all-around good showing. And as you said, that first period took them a little bit to establish their game. But once they got that first one in, you could tell that they were, okay, now we can feel it. And Wisconsin's starting to press a little bit more, and St. Cloud was just able to take advantage of that. So I thought a good all-around effort on Friday, and as I mentioned on Saturday, transitioning to that game, just a better performance, obviously, from Wisconsin. But similar to that Friday game, the Huskies able to keep their composure. I thought Bassie made some key saves early in Saturday to keep the game scoreless. That goal from scored the first one on Saturday. Checking it now
for the Huskies.
Yeah, the Cruikshank goal. It was similar to your comment about the 2-0 that Okabe misses and then they score right away, coming right on the heels of that 5-minute major power play for the Huskies, where they were generating a lot of chances, but keeping it mostly to the perimeter. And I thought some more bad angle chances, kind of how the power play was adrift a little bit towards the end of last year, sort of falling in love with that sort of
Ovechkin-esque one time.
Yeah, you pass it at that deep point or the deep dot area, which is just a tough angle to score on. But it seems like a lot of their guys are really liked taking that shot. So they were able to generate a lot of shot attempts on that power play, but obviously not able to pop one in. And every time you have a 5-minute power play, it's going to be a momentum swing one way or the other. Either the team that's on the power play is going to score one or more goals, or the other team that's killing it is going to be able to kill it off, and that presents a momentum spark from their perspective as well. And so you're thinking right after that okay, this could turn in the other direction, and then right after that, that's when Cruikshank scores kind of a cheap goal. Yeah, it just kind of and that's sort of how the fortune goes in hockey. Sometimes you're peppering them with shots during a 5-minute power play, and then something like that goes in. But you could tell that was just okay. This was a potential momentum swing for Wisconsin. Man, St. Cloud just go, we'll take it from here. But credit to Wisconsin, they came back, and I thought a nice goal from Kuhlman's in the third.
Had to redeem himself from the terrible Friday game that he had.
Yeah, he did not have a good 2 penalties plus a misconduct. Did not play well on Friday, and a nice shot that I don't think Bassey had any chance on for that one goal for the lone Wisconsin goal on Saturday. But bad too many men penalty, which I missed. I didn't see it really at the time, but it sounds like it was definitely too many men penalty. Even Granato agrees, so it must have been legit.
It was, but like
I thought when they showed that replay and the announcers, which obviously we don't have a ton of good things to comment about the Badger announcers.
It's a tough job.
It's sort of like, I don't. That seems like it's. And I thought that maybe what happened, you couldn't really tell from the replay, but I thought that maybe the guy coming off for the change, the puck hit him. That usually is kind of the classic too many men call. And I think the announcers thought the new guy coming on was the guy that touched it, which you are granted some lenience there. But there was a clear shot that I saw where they had 6 guys on and no one was headed to the bench. So it was the correct call. And as we mentioned already, Kupka getting a tip from an Ingram shot on that power play to put it home, and Huskies hunker down for the last 5 minutes and hang on to a 2-1 win. But I didn't, like I said, I don't really think that this was a game that Wisconsin really outplayed them. I don't think the Huskies greatly outplayed Wisconsin either. But it's not like I felt like the Huskies stole one or something like that. I felt like they kind of, they didn't play as well as they did on Friday, and Wisconsin played a little bit better. They met the challenge, and they were able to come out on top. And here we sit at 4-0.
Yep. And that, keeping up with that tenacity that led to some of those goals, and also, like you said about Cruikshank goal after that power play expired. Kupka too. We get that penalty or that power play, we get that opportunity, we stepped up, and that's what good teams do, and that's what I feel at times we were missing last year, is that we were just waiting maybe for someone else to step up, or just we were missing that kind of one spark to happen. And not only are we getting that so far, is that we're getting that from an array of different players, which is always a good thing to have for that depth. As far as the penalty goes, it is the right call the way it's written. I don't know. He was right there on the bench, and he was clearly not giving an advantage to Wisconsin. I am very much like the spirit of the rule type of person. Like, why is this a rule? Is to make sure that, you don't, it's not obvious that you're skating with 6 people to gain some kind of an advantage. And, I just feel like this is an instance where it was just maybe a little bit of a close call. It was the right call the way it's written. I'm not a big fan of the rule. I'm a little fan of more subjective, which leads to a lot of other problems, and I understand that. So it's.
At the time, I texted a buddy that was at the game, and I said I thought that I called it a gift penalty or power play. And seeing the Wisconsin's beat writer, his write-up after the game, where they, interviewed Granato and kind of laid it out, it seemed that at least they didn't think it was a gift. That doesn't really make me feel one way or the other about it. But at the time, in the moment, I was like, that was weird. When they first whistled it, I thought maybe St. Cloud was going to be called for too many men. Mm-hmm. You knew it was going to be some weird penalty. And I thought I swear that St. Cloud touched it, and that's when they blew the whistle. But it was a weird call, and goes against Wisconsin, and St. Cloud takes advantage of it. Yeah,
and usually those types of calls where the linesman is kind of the judge when it comes to too many men, usually that's just blown dead right away because they're like, I want to catch you in the act. Versus 45 seconds ago you had one too many men on the ice. So that's usually why they blow those ones dead right away.
Well, and talking about rolling with the punches, right after they score that goal, the most predictable makeup call comes up.
Oh yeah,
with Pert taking a penalty, which was a penalty, but it didn't matter. The next time that St. Cloud breathed on a Wisconsin player, they're going to be called for a penalty. Just kind of give them the chance, and St. Cloud was able to shut it down for that 2 minute. I'm not even sure if Wisconsin had a shot on goal during that penalty kill. Mm-hmm. And just kind of milked the rest of the clock away and buried the Badgers. And so being able to kill that opportunity, the penalty kill has been great so far this year. And so it's lots of good takeaways from this series.
So if you're Wisconsin, all right, let's just they split goalies as well. You had who was it? Rowe the first week, or
Rowe on Friday, and then as I sort of suggested in the last podcast, they did give this Kyle McClellan, the Mercyhurst transfer, gave him some action on Saturday.
Wasn't he in the Civil War? Wasn't he a general in the Civil War?
I think Kyle, you're right. I'm not sure if Kyle was the first name.
I suppose Kyle is kind of. I'm
sure Kyle was an 1860s name. Man, not sure about that. Let me see. I think I would have remembered hearing about General Kyle McClellan.
General George McClellan. Yeah. There we go.
And wasn't like the Wild's first year? Didn't they have Jamie McClellan, or was it McLennan? I'm not sure if
Jamie McLennan.
We'll go McLennan. It was okay.
And
we'll
Manny,
go with McClellan.
And Manny Fernandez.
Manny Fernandez
were our two goalies there in the original year.
Yeah, so
and Jacques Lemaire had a tandem then. So he even had a tandem when they went to the Western Conference Finals. He was between
when they had
Dwayne Rollison.
They had the tandem captains. Do you remember that? I know it was their first year. They switched rotated captains every month.
Every month they had a new captain.
And I think for the first couple of years they had that. I don't know if anyone's ever done that before or since. But anyway, we're sidetracked again. I thought the goalies played fine. Even Grimaud giving up 5 goals, I thought it could have been more. So I think the Huskies had a lot of good grade A opportunities. And McClellan was fine too, other than I don't really know what happened on that Cruikshank goal, but I thought he was pretty solid on Saturday. What did you think about the goaltending from Wisconsin's perspective?
I thought McClellan had a little bit better game than Rowe did. There were a few that Rowe didn't have much of a chance on. But we could maybe say like that Wiley or the Ashan goal, maybe it's like I wish you would have stopped that type of goal versus so to put a bow on the Wisconsin Badgers trip out to the Kohl Center, which who knows when we're gonna be invited back.
Maybe a while.
Yeah, exactly.
If they want to lose 4 games,
who knows if Granato will still be the coach then?
That's very possible.
What a ridiculous thing to give him a contract after last season. A contract extension.
Well, because I don't believe his contract was up at the end of last year, or even I don't even think it was up after this season. I think the thinking there is you want to give your coach an extension from a recruiting standpoint. As far as like our RPI went through this, they didn't extend their coach. It was similar to the Mel Pearson situation where their coach Dave Smith, his contract expired at the end of the 21-22 season. So he was not under contract, and they only extended him in August of this year. And in that time between the end of the season and when they re-signed him, they lost like 5 guys in the transfer portal, including like their top scorer, because he's like, how can I commit to this program? Or if I'm an RPI player, I don't even know who's going to be the coach next year. So I'm going to skedaddle and find a better opportunity for me rather than hanging around this sort of unsure who's the coach, Schrodinger's cat situation. Is he the coach or is he not the coach? Schrodinger's coach. And they ended up resigning him. So I think that these programs want to have they want to show that to recruits, hey, this is a solid, stable situation. You're not going to be coming in here under a lame duck coach. So he's under contract for another 5 years, I believe, until I think you said 26, 27. That could always be taken care of, paid off.
Yeah. $2.9 million buyout.
And seeing that there was a willingness to do that with the football coach, which they just fired a few weeks ago, I wouldn't say, I mean, in college hockey, firing a coach in season for performance is unheard of. I can't think of one.
I can't think of any.
I mean, there's been conduct-related firings like Rick Bennett from Union last year, and then health reasons. I know that UConn's coach stepped down mid-season like a decade ago because I think he was like cancer treatments. So, but from a wins and losses
Speaking of UConn, they've turned into the darling.
Oh, yeah. we'll talk about that. I actually wanted to touch on them in our sort of around the country roundup. So stick around for that if you want to hear about some other lesser Huskies, the UConn. But yeah, as far as wins and losses, I can't think of one. I'm sure there has been, but if it has, it's been many decades since there's been an in-season firing. If they do fire him, it'll probably be the Monday after they're eliminated from the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I would not be shocked. But I almost think if you're willing to give it an extension after last season, you'd almost have to do worse than 10 wins in order to get him fired after another season after the season this year. So if he goes 15-18, I mean, yeah, I probably would think he's going to stick around. I don't know. I don't really have a pulse on the Wisconsin hockey fan base. You'd think that they've been kind of restless for the last, several years. I mean, the only good year really since Granato's taken over was the COVID year where, fans weren't allowed into the building. So fans haven't been able to see in person a good Badger team going back into the Mike Eaves era, really. So I don't know. He doesn't strike me as a guy, even just from his demeanor, and he seems like a guy that doesn't really have that program. He doesn't really have like complete control. Like it's just doesn't look the part, I guess. And he came from the NHL. I don't know if college is really best suited for him. So I would not be surprised if they move on, but I would also, based on their sticking with him for this is his 7th or 8th year. I mean, and it has not been roses and unicorns since he took over. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's there for another 8 years. So I guess we'll have to keep a pin in that.
So switching over to teams that matter, Huskies here this weekend, homecoming weekend for St. Cloud State, whatever that means. Since the many years that we didn't have homecoming and also the no football team. But Minnesota State coming to the Herb, and it's going to be my first look at the new scoreboard and then the sound system here. So I'm really excited.
You're going to be going.
Yep, I'm going to be going on Saturday. So,
wow.
Yep. I'm free. So, Minnesota State coming off quite the weekend, where they, especially on Saturday or on Friday, really took to Minnesota Duluth 6-0, and then able to win a 2-1, eke out a win there. So, this is going to be our test. Minnesota State was very highly touted coming into the season, which I believe I said on one of our season preview shows that I am a little bit surprised with how much that they've lost. And I thought I was vindicated, even though it was an exhibition loss to Omaha. But the split with Minnesota, then now a sweep of Minnesota Duluth. Everything's early, so who knows right now.
And factoring in the Niagara sweep of Omaha, that could also sort of say how much stock we should have put into that exhibition game result.
Right, exactly.
Although they got off the mat and came back to tie and win against Lake State this weekend. So maybe Omaha is for real. I couldn't even say that with a straight face.
I mean, hey, it was a crazy weekend in college hockey between Lindenwood
and we'll get to
and
that.
And then Omaha coming back from 4-rip to tie.
Right.
But so just this team now with some of the usual suspects, I would say that I remember from these past years are graduated, gone. Obviously the one that stands out the most is Ryan Sandelin, which is obviously the relation to the Bulldogs head coach. But, Jake Livingstone, Sam Morton, some of these guys are a little more under the radar over previous seasons, and they've been able to shine so far coming into, this weekend against the Huskies. So it's going to be our first test really for this defense and these goalies. We haven't really had that test, the Mankato speed. And it's something that I'm going to keep an eye on is how our defense is going to react, because this is going to be a very benchmark, tape measure type series to see where we're going to measure up, for the next maybe even 5-6 weeks, in my opinion. Maybe I'm taking too much stock into this, but I think this is it. This is our first test, and it's going to be important for us to come out of the gate swinging.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very intriguing contest, and knowing what we know about Mankato, I'm confident to think that Mankato is going to be a tournament team this year, and based on their league, I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to be like a 1 seed in the tournament again. Knowing that, and still knowing some question, and being aware of the question marks that St. Cloud has, I'd be happy with a split this weekend. I wouldn't be shocked if it's a sweep one way or the other, but I would be happy with a split from St. Cloud's perspective. There's the similar storyline, I think, between these two teams coming into this season is goaltending question marks. You mentioned coming off of last season for Mankato, and really coming off the last 5 years of Mankato, is knowing who
was
their
it
goalie
only 5? It felt like long.
Yeah. Knowing who their goalie was going to be, Dryden McKay, and he's gone, of course. And interesting, so they start the year with Keenan Rancier, who got a token action as McKay's backup last year, and I think he only got into 2 games. I mean, that's how much McKay played. He played every single game and every single minute for Mankato. And they started with Rancier for that Gopher series, and losing at Mariucci and then coming back and winning at home. But for the Duluth series, it was Alex Tracy getting the start both games. And winning both games. Now that's that Friday game. I mean, he only had 7 shots faced through the first 2 periods. I think it was 10 shots total in the game. Very low shot amount for Duluth. And so perhaps not. I didn't catch a ton of the action because those games were going on concurrently with the Huskies game. So I was trying to keep an eye on it, but especially that Friday game when I saw it was out of hand, I really didn't pay much attention to the end of that game. But doing some research about Tracy, because he's won the last 2 games and he's sort of a hot goalie, I guess. I'm assuming he's going to get the start at least on Friday against the Huskies. Was a USHL goaltender, and he played for Sioux City last year, and they ended up winning the Clark Cup. So he has USHL playoff tested goaltender in Alex Tracy, and similar to the St. Clouds, I guess just amplified more because McKay ends up finishing his career with a Hobie Baker Award, but St. Cloud coming off of 5 years of having a tried and true sort of, we generally know that Hrenek was going to get the start, as St. Cloud is transitioning this year, starting off with a goalie tandem on each, one guy's got each night. Mankato's done it a little differently, where they started out with one guy getting both nights against the Gophers, and now flip-flopping with Tracy. I wonder if the plan was to flip-flop this last week against Duluth, but then once Tracy pitches the shutout on Friday,
that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
they give him the hot hand kind of start on Saturday. So maybe he does the same this week. If he plays really well on Friday, then he'd also get Saturday. But if Huskies get to him on Friday night, perhaps we'll see Rand Sear. So I do think that's a storyline that both teams sort of have in common, is that they're both still figuring out goaltender, if a number one is going to emerge. And as you said, some losses from last year, not as much as I thought. I mean, there's high-end losses as far as from their skaters go. Nathan Smith, leading scorer last year, left shortly after and signed an NHL deal. I don't know if he's still. I know he signed with Arizona. I don't know if he's still in the system, but and also Julian Napravnik, who's also their number 2 leading scorer. They actually had 4 guys. I didn't realize. Again, my perception of Mankato as just being this kind of stout, defensive, big, burly kind of team. This is a program that led the country in goals scored last year. 178 tallies on the season last year, which led the nation. And they had, we mentioned Wisconsin, their leading scorers from last year had 22 points. Both at DeSant Fall and Kuhlman's, both had 22 points last year. Mankato last year had 11 players with at least 22 points, including Smith with 50, and then 3 other guys with 40-plus points. Put that in perspective, Fitzgerald led the team last year for the Huskies with 34 points. And then he had Sandlin, Livingston from the point had 31 points. Hiroshi, another defenseman of theirs, 20-plus point season from the point. Cole Borchard, 41-point season last year, kind of skating on the radar there. And as you mentioned, Sam Morton scored couple of the goals last weekend against Duluth. He put up a 25-point season last year. And so, this team has some speed. It's got some scoring prowess, both from forwards and from the point. It's got a good power play system.
Now, one thing also we have to remember with all the points that they scored is, they did have 6 games against St. Thomas.
Oh, right.
So, I mean, Ferris State. I mean,
of course. Yes. I think that goes without. Usually you're the one, when I say, hey, Mankato, you got to put it into context there in the CCHA. It's a lesser league. It seems like you tend to poo-poo that. It's a given that, you switch schedules here with St. Cloud and
poo-poo is a little strong. I mean, you play the games that are in front of you. You score. That's right. Great.
Yeah, but if St. Cloud would have gotten 4 more games against St. Thomas,
there should be like a currency exchange between like CCHA goals and like real league goals.
Isn't that like what the pairwise is supposed to do? Try to equal these teams out from from the differences in the schedules that they play, it's a crapshoot. I know, but yeah, it's.
I mean, I say this as they just put up 6 against Minnesota Duluth.
Well, and that's interesting too. I'm wondering, and I want to pose this question to you because I'm wondering, does that series say more about Mankato or does it say more about Duluth?
Yeah, I
think it might be the latter. We might figure out pretty quick here because Duluth has Wisconsin on the schedule. It's interesting that they're sort of switching. St. Cloud and them are switching opponents, albeit different home and away situations. St. Cloud hosting Mankato and Duluth hosting Wisconsin. But yeah,
good on Wisconsin for taking an away series like that. That's really impressive.
Yeah. So I was going to make a Penn State crack, but we can get to that later. That's when we get to the Penn State portion of the show. But
yeah, you're right. I don't know what it says more about because I mean with my preseason predictions, I had Minnesota Duluth number 2, and as of right now, that ain't looking too good this early.
Well, I mean, that top 3, the vaunted top 3 of the conference that we both were very high on in whatever order we had them, Denver, North Dakota, and Duluth, 0.0 wins last weekend by combined between those 3 programs. So I guess North Dakota did
technically
get a tie,
would it be like 0.5 maybe? I don't know what's this. Or
0.5 because
0.45. I don't know what the pair was. I'm like Jim Rich over here
just
right now.
It was an actual tie. So, and don't come back. Anyone, any listener that's gonna come back and say they won the shootout. It does not count. Yeah, that's the wrong answer. That's correct. So yeah, I don't know. From the perspective of Duluth just being able to generate 0 offense, maybe that's saying something about how Mankato's defense is a shutdown defense. Yeah. I don't know. And again, we'll see some results on that hypothesis of what that series said more about Mankato or Duluth. We'll get some data, more data this weekend based on the results. But it's an opponent. It's a tough opponent. It's a historical rival, beer bowl and everything with St. Cloud and Mankato. And I'm sure the rivalry is not as hot as it maybe once was, but there's still some history there. And, obviously Mike Hastings coming, he's joining in on the homecoming here because he's a former Husky. He's a Husky alum. So, maybe he can be rudely re-welcomed back into Stearns County, this weekend. So, should be a fun series, and like I said, I'd be more than okay with the split, and but I'd be really happy with like a win and a tie. Yeah. So, we'll see.
Back in the football days,
I'm excited for this one.
The Huskies and Mavericks, they did fight for the traveling training kit. Well, that was the traveling trophy between the two schools.
That's good.
So it was like I don't know, like a first aid kit, I guess, and one side was red with the Huskies, and the other side was purple with the...
I would have thought it had been like a case of Mick Golden Draft Light.
Probably Bush Light now. Natty Ice.
That would have been the case of Natty Light or Natty Ice. That is the traveling... Maybe that should be the traveling trophy. Natty Ice for the hockey. Hockey, ice, get it? I think that's a good one. Maybe we should throw that out there to. We still don't have an athletic director.
Oh, geez, it's actually an old tackle box. Huh.
But they don't. I mean, we don't have a football team anymore. So, is this trophy? This trophy is just doing nothing. Maybe we do need to transfer it to the hockey.
I would love it if we brought it back. Like
there is, why there is no trophy games in hockey. Why? Why is that only a football thing?
Well, I mean, what the gold pan for?
I suppose. Yep.
CC.
I guess is there, and there is the Governor's Cup. For the Alaska schools.
I would be all for it. Who do we have to write? Like you said, maybe we have to write for our athletic director. Be like, hey, let's transfer this over since.
I know that you got rudely passed over, and incorrectly passed over for the PA position, but did you send over that resume for the AD position?
I did not. I should just make a couple of little edits and get that switched over. But I wonder if Mankato's like, no, it's a football trophy, and we won the last one 45-10, so it's ours now, and it'll be ours for
forever.
Eternity.
Yeah,
which
I guess would be like them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you got a point, but so yeah, so it's. I think this series we're going to learn a lot about both teams. So it's going to be a fun series. I think it's going to be incredibly fast paced, and I just hope to see some pucks in the net. Both teams have been stout defensively as well as goalies that have kind of impressed. And if we get some drag them out games, it's going to be kind of a letdown. But I think the team history between these teams have been pretty high scoring here as of late. So I hope that continues. Switching over. And anything else you want to say about Mankato before we move on to kind of the national scene?
I think we covered it. Do you have like a prediction? Do you want to go out on a limb here?
I mean, like you said,
what are you thinking? You don't need to do scores or anything. Just what are you generally thinking? Split?
Well, I mean, if it's us show, the scores would be 3-2.
Well, 3-2 and
3-2, 3-2. If I were to guess, it would probably, I would say a split. I know that's kind of the chicken answer to kind of go with that, but I would say St. Cloud wins Friday, and then Mankato comes back on Saturday and takes it. It's kind of the way I look at it. So.
Okay, I'll go the other way. I'll say Mankato wins Friday, and St. Cloud comes back on Saturday. Because I want you to be in the building for the win.
Ooh, I want to be in the win. Yeah, why did I predict that? That was dumb of me. Yeah.
And it seems like, I think a lot of times it's the Friday game is good for the road team. It seems like, and a lot of times that Saturday game, it's like, okay, we got handled on Friday. Now we need to step it up in front of our home fans on Saturday. See, the Friday game is the trap game. And for the road team, you want to go in there. The team's kind of on the back. They've been hanging around for all week. And
got that long bus ride.
You've had the bus ride and the camaraderie. And so I think that's when you...
There's not an easy way, to drive from St. Cloud to Mankato. I mean, do you go up 169 and go through the cities? That's kind of terrible. Unless you want to stop at Canterbury, I guess. Quick bet on the ponies before, but I don't think it's open right now. It'll be really cold for those horses to run. But they got the poker room there, so
there you go.
So yeah, I mean, it was where are we at right now? About an hour or so.
53.
God, we're cruising. Look at this. Look at us. So, let's just go over because, like I said earlier, it was just a crazy weekend of college hockey. Where do you even want to start? Everyone's stumbling in the NCHC. I mean, really, other than
Huskies and Omaha. And Western Michigan. Western Michigan swept Bowling Green.
Oh, that's right.
Scored a bunch of goals. Western Michigan scored more goals than the Wild gave up on the weekend,
which is
the Wild
really
gave up
impressive.
A bunch of goals.
What a dumpster fire this Wild series has been so far. Anyway, I guess I was most shocked about Denver getting swept. I mean, going out to UMass and there was just judging by the box scores of that game, I mean, it just Denver probably shouldn't even left the tarmac.
Well, on Friday, they heavily outshoot UMass, 47-15. But from what I gathered, the first time I checked on it, UMass was up 3-0. And UMass had 3 shots on goal. So if that was correct from the CHN app, and
Which who knows?
It looked like UMass took a 5-minute major within the first minute and scored 2 shorties.
Yeah.
So it was one of those, like, you get off to that kind of start and then just, digging yourself such an early hole, and then Denver just continues to press all game long, but unable to get past their goaltender. But that Saturday game seemed to be much more of a kind of complete dominant performance from UMass. So I know you were down on UMass because they had to rally to tie AIC. You did not like that sort of performance. When a team stumbles against AIC, you see that as sort of a red flag. Rightfully so. But I said, hey, that's going to be a tough one for Denver. I did not think they were going to get swept, though. And the same thing with North Dakota and Quinnipiac. Figuring that had been a good sort of hot series early on in the season. And really, North Dakota lucky to escape even just with the one tie. Because they were down, 3 goals on Friday?
3 goals twice. They were down 3-0 and 4-1.
Right.
But came out with a heck of a stretch of the third period right at the beginning. I guess a third of the way through, they scored.
Got a couple of favorable penalty calls, I think. They had a 5-on-3 at one point. But some bad goals.
Took the lead, yeah.
Quinnipiac, yeah. That 5th goal for North Dakota is kind of a bleeder. But Quinnipiac rallies to tie it and then sort of dominate on Saturday, 6-2 win. So kind of a statement series for Quinnipiac and early season stumble for North Dakota. I was surprised.
North Dakota is up to do.
Right. That's more like the Fire Hacksaw days.
Yeah,
that was like
a Hacksaw era. Yeah, was we're going to play 500 until January, and then you're not going to beat us.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and then you even had Colorado College going out to St. Lawrence and getting swept. Not sure St. Lawrence is all that hot, but it looks like Colorado College isn't either. So Miami was off for the weekend, so they were spared any result. But not a good weekend for the conference as a whole. As you mentioned, we touched on the Omaha, coming back from down 4-0 after the first period to tie Lake State, and then they had one there on Friday as well. So a good weekend for them, but and a good weekend for the Huskies, as we mentioned, but for the rest of the league, and a good weekend, or I guess it was Thursday, Friday for Western Michigan against Bowling Green. But other than that, a winless showing for the conference, and that does that has the potential of affecting playoff positioning and pairwise. A weekend like this isn't going to kill the conference from that perspective, but a couple of the weekends do. And
losing to good teams don't necessarily hurt you as much. So
right, it's more the Omaha losing to Niagara.
Yeah,
if those become a trend, that would be maybe the difference between getting 3 teams in versus 4 teams, something like that. If you're a good enough team, you're going to make the points. The math will favor you at the end. But when it comes down to those sort of bubble teams, a lot of times it's that strength of schedule is what puts you over, and that strength of schedule is raised if the rest of the conference does well in pairwise, or it does well in non-conference games. So hopefully this isn't a trend that the conference is going to have weekends like this, and maybe it's a testament because they generally don't have weekends like this. That it's notable that once they do have something where teams get swept unexpectedly, it's noteworthy. I guess that speaks to the how good this league traditionally has been.
And I think everyone can blame me for this because I predicted the Denver North Dakota series would be 1-2, and both of them really just
That reminds me.
I think they lost. Just to spite me. Actually, I wouldn't doubt because of how much they hate me and I hate them. So
you just reminded me I had forgotten to check out this week's Ustro poll.
Don't do this. Oh, yeah.
This is the first. You're getting my live reaction, and the Gophers are number one. Coming off that bye week, they really look good in the bye week. Minnesota State at number 2, St. Cloud at 8. So, and St. Cloud getting a first place vote.
Yeah.
Wonder who that is. Did Brown get a vote? Brown did not get a vote. What the hell?
Who was the person there who put him at 20?
They did it for the first 3 weeks.
First 3 weeks, and now.
And it's like you got Harvard and Cornell are ranked, and again, these are Ivies. They don't start until November. Why are they ranked? And then the Brown, like what? I don't get it. Maybe we scared off the Brown voter after last week's podcast.
I want to know who that Brown voter is. That just sounds racist. I did not.
Yeah,
that is Brown University. Is it University of Brown or Brown University?
Brown University.
All right. So
I've heard they're a good school.
I heard they're all right.
Yeah, I heard from a books standpoint. And I do have to apologize. I said last week that they've never made a tournament. They've made 4.
Oh, wow.
They've only made 1 in our lifetime. 1993 was the last time they've made a tournament. They lost to Duluth.
Oh,
our friends.
I was going to say Maine,
but then before that,
was it Maine?
No, they played Maine that year. That was Maine's like 45-1 season.
Yeah,
and they played Maine that year. But anyway, and then they made a couple of tournaments like in the Stone Age and so they made a couple of Frozen Fours technically, but that's when the only part of the NCAA tournament was the Final Four. And so like sometime in the 50s they made the title game. But I digress. That's your brief history lesson on Brown hockey. But I'm just looking over this Ustro poll. Quinnipiac's up there, getting a couple of first place votes. I was surprised to see that BU and Michigan series. Michigan just handed it to BU on Friday, 9-2. And it was 7-1 at one point when I checked. There's also on the Big Ten Network Plus app that they got me to buy for a month. But then Boston University comes back and wins on Sunday. Interesting. So, and Connecticut, we mentioned them, 5-0-1. And this is a team that has, I can say for sure, UConn has never made a tournament before. And they were knocking at the door last year in the Hockey East title game. Went to overtime, I believe, against UMass in that title game. If they would have won, obviously, they would have gotten the automatic qualifier. And so that was obviously their best chance of making the tournament. And now off to a 5-0-1 start. Granted, not the best competition they've played. They swept a bad Connecticut team to start the season and sweeping Union. Not
Who
very
did
good.
Connecticut sweep?
They went to Vermont, swept Vermont, and then swept Union, including one in overtime game there. And then a win and a tie against Ohio State. And Ohio State's been decent in years past. So I don't know if we, early season sort of hot takes, if we want to say UConn's going to be there in the field of 16. But, it's a good start. Good start for them.
It's better than the alternative.
Right.
I do remember I've seen as of late Connecticut, kind of pick up some really impressive recruits. So I think some of them are starting to funnel into the system and now I think kind of, obviously, I mean, this was 5-6 years ago or something when Tage Thompson was there.
Yeah.
I remember that one kind of being the first big splash of why the heck is a guy of this caliber going to Connecticut? But, ever since then, I've noticed that they've been picking up a good player here and there. And I think now, everything is kind of fallen into place. So we'll see if they can keep that rolling. And
Well, I think a big thing was when Kavanaugh became their coach, a longtime BC assistant, and he's been there for quite a while now. His first year was, I believe, the first year of the NCHC, and his first season was UConn's last season in Atlantic hockey. I forget that they were in Atlantic.
That's right, they were.
But then moved on to Hockey East. I think having Kavanaugh take over played a part in that because he had such ties to Jerry York and the old school club there, old boys club in Hockey East. Their big thing for a while was they just never really had a permanent on-campus facility. They had one that they were playing in their Atlantic hockey days, but when they moved to Hockey East, they didn't think that rink was a viable facility for Hockey East. So they've been playing out of Hartford, which is, UConn's in Stores, which is not Hartford, obviously. So they've been playing at the AHL facility where the Hartford Wolfpack play pretty much in their entirety for Hockey East. But they finally do have a on-campus facility in Stores. It's going to open in the middle of the season. They're thinking like the beginning of January that they're going to open it, which I think is another reason why some people are high on them, because now that's, again, from a recruiting standpoint, having an on-campus facility that you can really make your own, and you're not sort of a tenant in a professional team's arena. It's sort of a big step for a program like that, and it's one that's many years in the making. Like, this isn't Kavanaugh's, like I said, he's close to being there for 10 years, and just now getting that final step, kind of like what we're seeing with Arizona State, opening their arena this past weekend. Huge step in just solidifying your program and establishing an identity. Once you have a jewel in your backyard to show your potential recruits, that's really a huge step for a program. So, maybe this is the beginning of something real for UConn, and
that's something that's really gonna hold St. Thomas back. I mean, they just can't find the land right now to build. So,
yeah, it is huge,
Mm-hmm.
And
speaking of new programs, Lindenwood gets their first win in dramatic fashion.
A pretty crazy game there. I wish I could have been able to see it. I don't know if they were doing streams. I didn't check. I think they only have 2 home series all season. And God bless Frank Serratori and Air Force for being willing to schlep to suburban St. Louis to make that happen. But 7-6, but they were down 4 goals at one point, and I think down 3 in the third period. But then coming back to win for their first win as a D1 program. So congratulations to the Lions.
Went 3 for 5 on the power play.
There you go. They've shown a capability of being able to score. Putting 4 up on the number 1 in the country Golden Gophers, and having a couple of leads in Ann Arbor in those games against Michigan. So, this is a team that isn't afraid to grace the score sheet, and I guess Air Force can attest to that firsthand, giving up 7.
I miss college hockey stats. I would really like to go a episode where I don't talk about how much I miss college hockey stats, but
it is a loss.
Yeah, right now averaging 3.16 goals per game, which I don't know how many first.
Did you just do that math on the fly yourself?
Yeah.
That's so good.
Which is why I wish that it was just right there in front of me. But apparently if I go to the stats page, like it's individual stats, like team page.
Well, and like the CHN app doesn't even have Lindenwood's logo up. Like, come on, man. Yeah. Like, put their logo up. Like, it feels like they're not even a real team.
It's actually a pretty bomb logo, too.
I couldn't tell you what it is
Oh.
because I don't know. I have never seen it. I guess I got to Google it. I got to do all the work of Googling it myself, right? Oh yeah, that is a nice little logo.
Yeah, kind of cool. The lion.
The lion, yeah, the lion kind of looks mean, I guess that's the whole point of having the lion, right?
So, all right, questions. Wait, did we? Hold on a second. Did we totally miss a player of the weekend, or did we?
I think we did. I did some brainstorming on that this weekend, and we should do that.
Should I edit the podcast and put it right there?
Nah.
Okay, fine, fair enough.
Just keep it right here.
Keep it right here.
I'll go first. Or do we have the Go Huskies?
The Go Huskies woo.
It's his bit, so he can start it off.
So, it got to be Grant Cruikshank. He was a force all weekend and showed up in the score sheet. Thoughts? He thought Bassey was the better goaltender in week 1, and he thought Castor was the better goaltender here this week. If we were kind of doing head-to-head goalie matchups, that was his thought. Really liked Ethan O'Coin's game. Like you said, he was kind of that spark plug. He generated a lot of, I don't want to say chances, but he was definitely a pest out there. Kind of kept his motor running, kind of like a Johnny Swanson type. It's kind of the best way that I can describe.
Is this coming from Go Huskies Woo, or are you sort of riffing?
Well,
here,
I guess both. I mean, he said O'Coin was good.
Are you Go Huskies Woo?
I am not Go Huskies Woo. I already have 2 Twitter accounts. I cannot manage a third.
You have 2 Twitter accounts?
Yeah, I've got one just for hockey. Yeah.
Oh, so good. So good.
It's kind of a problem, but no, Go Huskies Woo just said O'Coin was good. So I kind of elaborated a little bit more. So I did. Good. I guess I'm sorry if you guys thought I spoke for Go Huskies Woo. I did not mean.
I was just one. Yeah, I didn't know when the Go Huskies Woo content ended and when your content started. But it's nice to get the peek behind the curtain there, so to speak.
He also said good result on Friday. Kind of surprised Brett didn't make any changes other than the goalie. So getting some of the other players in there. I thought it didn't surprise me at all, actually, that there were no changes after a 5-1 dominating win other than the goalie, because that was obviously going to be the plan going forward. So I guess that didn't surprise me at all, but I think there'll be other times that, well, I mean, I guess like you said, who knows, and Brand's going to get back in the lineup. I mean, I didn't necessarily miss him.
He might have been Wally pipped for all you know.
He also sent a picture of the penalty box of it was Jack Rogers when he took a penalty, and the woman in the penalty box during the game for the Huskies says that we need to find this woman. She was just so disinterested. She was it was just a mood. It was just a presence of her just being there and just not really caring. And he wanted to give props to her. It was just some aura about her just kind of sitting there and just being like.
Well, would you be all that excited if you had to work the penalty box for a Wisconsin Badgers men's hockey game?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, that's got to be, I don't know. I mean, the only thing worse, I guess, would be if, like, Smooth Jazz was playing in the penalty box. I think that would make it worse. But, yeah.
What's wrong with Smooth Jazz?
Let
me some Witten Marsalis. Don't say it.
I can't believe you just name-dropped Smooth Jazz like that.
Hey, I can do this. I can riff, man. Let's keep it going.
All right, I'll put that. Maybe, yeah. I just haven't found the right Smooth Jazz artist, so I'll put that on my list.
Do that next Spotify that. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, who's that again?
I said Witten Marsalis. You can go Branford Marsalis as well as his brother. They both are jazz musicians.
Did the older brother go to Wisconsin?
No, I think he went to Brown.
Oh, University of Brown University.
University of Brown. It's exactly, yes. University of Brown Institute in Mendota Heights.
Of smooth jazz. UBISJ.
You got it.
So I guess the main thing is player of the weekend, go Huskies woo, is Grant Cruikshank. Who do you pick?
I was going to go Cruikshank as well.
Yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer in my opinion.
I guess I'll be different and say Sean. I mean, like I said, with that I kind of wanted to shout out that fourth line or that bottom six.
Yeah.
Because I thought that they were all sort of impressive in their own ways. But yeah, let's keep it easy. Let's just make it 3 for 3 and go with Cruikshank.
Yeah, it's that was that was a question mark that I had, and was our bottom six and our goaltending was kind of our big two. Is where what kind of identity we're going to have. And so far I've been really, really pleased on both aspects. So.
Well, I think the one downside of doing the goalie tandem is we're not going to probably have a player of the weekend be a goalie if they keep this up. Because I really can't give a player of the weekend for a player that just played one game of the series. Even though I agreed with Go Huskies Woo that both he said that he liked Castor better than Bassey. Yeah, potato to me. I thought they were both quite good. But I can't give it to them as a tandem because that's kind of cheating. But I don't feel right doing it. If you sweep, I think I don't want to give it just one of the goalies. So maybe that's another reason for us to find a number one starter is that they can be eligible for a Huskies Hockey Podcast Player of the Weekend.
I'll slide into Brett Larson's DMs and I'll let him know, hey, can you pick a goalie so he can be eligible for our niche podcast fake award that we have? I'm sorry, prestigious award.
Okay. You're niche, I'm niche. But I think both is correct. But
I've heard it both ways.
Yeah.
Which is a reference.
See how Go Huskies Woo pronounces it. That'll be the tiebreaker.
It's how could I put that in a poll? Just emphasize like NEE?
NEESH versus NITCH.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Huh. You know what? Listeners, chime in. Send me an send us an email. Let us know.
I am dying to know what way Dan Jacobson is on this question.
Yeah, I don't know. Niche sound. I don't think I would ever say niche.
I think
it seems too violent.
I think it's niche. Yeah, here is it. It's niche for a noun. Like you find your niche, but niche as in an adjective. Like we are a niche podcast. I think that is the correct answer.
Gotcha. Okay. I can kind of see that working. What would Will Shorts do? What would he say about it? He's got that.
I think he would say yes.
He would say it's not a crossword. What do I care? No, he's got a podcast, right? Doesn't he have some? He has like a game podcast, I think. Yes.
He's always on like the NPR Sunday show. I think he's done that for a while.
No, that's wait, don't tell me. He's not on wait.
He does a. It's not that. It's something different. But gotcha. I don't listen to NPR, so
I'm taking a stance here. God.
I never have. Sorry.
What was it? It's because Car Talk ended. You can say that. It's okay.
Yeah, it is.
It did.
Click
and clack. Click and clack. The Tappy Brothers. When will Tony Granato be fired? It should have happened a while ago, so probably never. If it hasn't happened already.
Like I said, another 8 years.
Would you change anything about your preseason NCHC rankings already? From Dan Jacobson. I wouldn't change, but I am not feeling good. I mean, like right now, it's like I don't even know where to put anybody other than Omaha towards the bottom.
That would be the one. If I had any, I'd probably slip Omaha down. But yeah, I don't know. It's too early. Once we get into conference play, then we'll be able to figure out how wrong we were, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Maverick speed, cause for concern. Goalie tandem again this week. Yes to the goalie tandem. Maverick speed, yeah, it's going to be a fast up and down game. So I think that is a good test for our defense.
I bet you the Mavericks hockey podcast is wondering, hey, how are the Mavericks going to put up with this Husky speed?
Yeah,
You know,
right.
It goes both ways.
Exactly.
And
Especially on
fat ice.
fat ice.
On
Right?
fat ice. So they'll get a workout this weekend.
And then Exiled One. Will Mike Hastings appreciate getting to watch his alma mater sweep its homecoming weekend series in person? I hope so. I
think so too.
So, I think a sweep for either team is going to be really hard to come by. But I hope St. Cloud's up to that task. So, but yeah. So, as we kind of wrap up the podcast, do you have any kind of final takes?
I did want to mention, St. Cloud and Wisconsin and the men's side was not the only Badger Husky action this weekend. True. And we should mention that the women's team, Huskies women's team, got it was an overtime loss on Saturday. Had a 1-goal lead, 2-1 lead going into the
final few minutes.
Final minute, or maybe like a minute and change, like minute and 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah, Wisconsin had to pull the goal.
When Wisconsin tied it up and then won in overtime. But looking at that early season gauntlet of going to Ohio State, then home against Wisconsin, and then I believe they have a home and home with the Gophers this coming weekend. Going anything more than 0-6, and by dropping an overtime loss, that is technically not just a regulation loss. You do get some pairwise points for that. I mean, yeah, and they were heavily outshot in both games. That Friday game, which I saw a little bit of, 40 something to low double digits in shots. They're clearly, obviously, Wisconsin's the better team, but baby steps, and I got to give them some credit to getting something out of a Wisconsin game, and so this is year zero for Adulski, and so far at least it's not like you're going to get a ton of wins this year. We're not going to be probably not going to be sniffing any sort of NCAA action this year, and maybe even for the next few years. But it starts now with the turnaround. Hopefully, is already underway, and getting a result like that, even if it is an overtime loss, I see it as a step or a sign in the right direction. So
yeah, I mean, when you're talking, starting the season, and again, we did have Rensselaer in there as a non-conference, but when you're talking starting your conference against 3 of the top powerhouses in women's college hockey, it's that's tough. That's a tough task, and to see both Nyland and Lynn, averaging over a point per game so far this season, that's that's awesome to see, and I'm really taking a keen look into how the season is going to progress. The big thing is that I'm really hoping we do have that forward momentum, which it felt like for under previous regimes, we just were always just stagnant and we never really got to that next level. And so far I'm liking the era, Podolsky's era so far. Even the losses that we've had, previous losses that we've had to Ohio State and Wisconsin were a lot more lopsided, right? Even 5-0, 6-2 that we've seen. So, it's going to be, it's going to be a season, where he's going to be kind of learning the ropes. Adolski's going to be learning the ropes, but I think this team is on the right track, and I'm excited to see where everything ends up.
That's right. See if they can give the Gophers a good game this weekend.
Now that's a home and home, I believe, right?
I believe it is. Yes.
So, Friday home and Saturday at Ritter. So, perfect. All right. Well, that about does her for this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back recapping hopefully a Husky sweep. So reach me at More Clappers, MOAR Clappers. Andrew, you could reach him at our email address. What's that email?
Official email account of the podcast. It's huskieshockeypodcast@gmail.com.
Perfect. Niche or niche?
Yes.
So there we go.
And spell out the pronunciation spell.
Yep.
You get it.
You get it. So perfect. Thank you. And until next time, go Huskies. Woo! Woo!